It's safe to say that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is going to get a facelift, pun intended, after this new big patch that they've been talking about for a couple of weeks. You don't realize how big a patch is like this until you actually read it. I read it, so you don't have to, but I'll still leave a link down below in the description if you want to go over it, because there's a lot of things in there, like some, pretty big fixes and stuff that I didn't even know existed in the game, to be quite honest with you. I cherry picked some of the game changing things that I think will really help the quality of life, and obviously having these updates to get the player base excited about the game again. If you like the content I do here, including Texas Chainsaw, Call of Duty, and a bunch of other games, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now, a lot of the patches in the past, people have talked about, oh, it's always family sided, it's always going against the victims. Well, this is almost a clear, like 50-50 or 60-40 split between victims and killers. And so when we start with the victim side, now Cook is going to be nerfed in a pretty big way, and this is fair, I think, and I'm a killer main. By the way, the footage you're watching here is Mrs. Hexshot, so take it easy on her. She's trying to learn how to play video games for the first time in her life, and this is the game she's learning on, so just keep that in mind. But not only will Cook not be able to hear you when you're just crouch walking, if he does hear you, that time is going to be lessened that you're actually marked out for the killers, and the consumption rate on his seek ability is going to be lessened pretty dramatically. So it's going to drain when he's searching for noises and whenever he's focusing on sounds. And so no longer can he just kind of spam this over and over and over. It's nice, when you're playing with a Cook on your team, but I imagine, playing as a victim, it's pretty tough. And so they're going to be nerfing Cook in a big way. Also, they're going to bring Johnny back a little bit. He can lunge further than any other killer, seemingly, and so they're going to bring him more in line with the other killers. Another thing is when victims jump down into the well, no longer can they be hit over and over and over. One hit and you fall into the well, so no more spamming those attacks on victims. Now, the escapes on Slaughterhouse have been tuned back. I think specifically they're talking about the car battery exit, which you can't any longer be able to go past the cattle grid and then, start teabagging and all that kind of stuff. I guess you could do it inside the gate, so I don't really know how much of this it's going to fix, but they specifically mentioned this to eliminate or cut back on trolling. People are going to find a way to troll, so I don't know how much this is really going to affect that, but there you go. Now, victims that play on Slaughterhouse, you're going to have a much tougher time with the Valve. This is awesome because it falls in line with the other maps and their Valve locations. So it's going to be moved up and out of the basement, and then also Valve handles are going to be placed further away from it. So, it won't be this, kind of tug of war, getting stabbed in the back, having to go down to the basement, have somebody watch the gate. It's just kind of a back and forth that really should have never been there in the first place, but at least they are fixing it. Also, when family members close the Valve, it's going to start to build pressure back up. So that's going to take some of the victims' progress away. They're also going to be adding nuggets, aka chickens, to the slaughterhouse. This is a great move. So this will actually have some noisemakers over there because that is one of the most quiet places to roam. And I'll be honest with you, man, as much as I've played this game over 200 hours at this point, I never even noticed that there's not chickens in the slaughterhouse. So, I pay quite a bit of attention to detail, but that's something I definitely miss. But I'm glad to see that they're adding that to the slaughterhouse. Another thing that they're doing, and I think this is a great move on victims, is they're giving them a little more leniency as far as the noise they can make in the basement before Grandpa wakes up. Now, of course, once you open a door, that's where he'll wake up, or if the family feeds him blood, he'll then wake up. But you can make a little bit more noise. Here's the thing, though. If you make noise with anything other than just opening up a door, that noisemaker is going to follow you around for an undetermined amount of time. We just don't know how long that'll be yet. So if you have one player trying to be super stealthy, they're moving around, they're doing, kind of how the game was designed in a way, then you come in and you're barging doors and you're whatever, that noisemaker is going to follow you. And so it's there to encourage more stealthy play. The developers have talked about this, there should be a penalty for playing fast, but you should still be able to play fast. If you want to do that, it's higher risk And, you can do that, but they want to encourage more stealthy play. So you're rewarded by playing it the way I see it as the game was designed. But again, they don't want to take, fast play out of the game. They just want to make it fair for the people that want to play stealthy. Now, of course, the Grandpa cutscene is going away. I've talked about this at length. This is a huge one. I'm not trying to overlook it, but I have talked about it, so there's that. Now, Big Bubba is no longer a requirement to start the match now. So you can have 3 killers of your choosing. Now, let me go ahead and say, if you play a game with me, I'm going to play as Leatherface because I like him. I think he's awesome in the game. Once I learned how to play with him and, got my skill tree where I wanted and all that, I enjoy playing as Leatherface. But he's no longer going to be a requirement. And I think people are going to miss him for sure. If you think about it, if you have a Cook, Hitchhiker, and Sissy, or Black Nancy, or whatever, those vaults that Leatherface gets rid of and destroying obstacles so, victims can't crawl through them, all that kind of stuff is still going to be there. There's not going to be any changes like that. So it may make it pretty tough. And I'm sure there'll be some, kind of meta builds with, other killers and, just different dynamics. It will change the game. But I think people are going to end up missing Leatherface for sure. But I appreciate them removing the requirement so that way it'll speed up matches. Also, if 5 out of 7 people are readied up, the timer will go down to 30 seconds. So no longer do you have to wait for a minute and a half or 2 minutes for somebody to, just kind of figure out their tree and doing all their abilities. You do all that stuff beforehand. And so this is another big one, man, to get us into matches quicker. This is an important and really good move on their part. They're also putting in controls on the back end so they can work out the map weighting. And so essentially, because Nancy's house is obviously going to be the map that everybody wants to play, so they can implement that map where it gets into rotation more often, and then other maps less in rotation. So that's pretty cool. And another thing they're doing is telemetry. So they're able to gather, specific data like time spent in the lobby, time spent in the match, perk levels at the start of the match. And so trying to gather all this data so they can, help to improve the game over time as well. So the gas station fuse and the fuse box now will have different spawn locations. So they're trying to work it out where no longer will you have a fuse spawn right next to the box because that's just totally unfair. So now they are working those things around so they will be more in line with, the valve and the actual handle that goes on the valve. They're also adding an electric gate to the gas station exit and they're closing off that gap where that little side room is. So no longer will there be a 5th exit to patrol as family on the gas station map. That's another big one, man. It was always just a really easy one to get to. And you notice as we've played, where basement exit is still fairly popular, but battery exit has become really popular. And, the gas station exit was really popular and still is to an extent. So you kind of have a rotation of, some of the best plays to try to get out of the map and survive. And that gas station exit has always been a pain to try to patrol that along with the generator. So they're taking that one out, completely. It'll still be there, but you just will not be able to get through that door any longer. Another thing they're trying to do is counter some of the issues in the beginning of the game, like Connie being able to break a lock almost instantly, or Leland being able to stun lock, Leatherface as soon as he starts up his chainsaw right in the beginning of the match. So they're adding a 60-second cooldown to all victims' abilities in the beginning of the matches. Hitchhiker's also going to be able to place his trap at valves now because they're taking like that safe zone away. So he'll be able to actually place traps there, which has become one of the more popular exits in the game now, to be honest with you, especially on like Slaughterhouse. Gas station, it's a pretty prevalent one as well. And so now they're giving Hitchhiker the ability to trap that. They've also added some quality of life changes, so like a mute all button and an on or off for auto crouching. Now here's one I want to read off that's pretty cool. It kind of tells you, what gun and those guys are all about. So victims, incapacitations, and hiding spots fixed a really weird bug where if a victim uses a hiding spot, and exits due to incapacitation, then a second victim does the same thing on the same hiding spot, the first victim instantly dies. To the one person who might have experienced this, you're welcome. I thought that was pretty cool, man, because it's obviously not a really common thing, but something they were able to duplicate, and obviously somebody's had an issue with it at some point, and that, of course, is now fixed. They also added in some missing voice lines, so apparently when you go over the noise threshold, there's supposed to be, voice lines and stuff. They've added those into the game, so you'll hear a little bit more dialogue now. They're also making some, little graphical things, like foliage would sometimes just disappear, and that would ruin your hiding spot, or it wouldn't render properly at all. Fixing small stuff like that. Also, like the pick locks, it should line up better, instead of being above it or whatever. So, it'll look better. And then also, if you're moving up a ladder, I guess the victim's hands sometimes wouldn't render correctly. They're fixing that. And also the blood trails that follow victims, they're, making those where those are actually better. The last one I want to read off is pretty cool and creepy. If you've seen this one, let me know. But I'm going to read this directly from them. The ghost victim in North Cell. So fix an issue where a victim who escaped from the driveway exit would have their character model reappear in the North Cell on Family House. I guess reappear as a ghost or something. I thought that was kind of cool. I wish they maybe would have actually kept that in the game. That's kind of neat. So that's all we're going to talk about in this video. There is a lot more that goes into it, though. A lot of bug fixes, quality of life stuff. And this is really huge for the game. And I think up to this point, the game's run pretty smooth. I think graphically it looks really good. I've had a few connection errors here and there, but nothing more than any other game that I play, So I think overall they've done a really good job, but this is really going to help to clean up the game as a whole. One of the biggest issues we've had, though, in my opinion, is getting into lobbies and the lack of new maps, both of which hopefully will be fixed with this, because of course we got the new map, new killer, new victim coming tomorrow with this big patch as well. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications so you will see that video when I drop that and tell you if I think the new killer, victim are worth buying, and tell you what I think about the new map. Love to hear your opinion on this big patch. Are you still playing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Will this bring you back? If you're not, let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.